Okay, so welcome to the Clover Refresher webinar, and my plan for today is to spend the first 20 minutes, half hour, going over just some of the basics of Clover, like requesting and lending and logging in, and just the steps with each request, and sharing the support site that I've been working on building. And so why don't we start at the beginning, and then after that we'll go to questions, and I'm going to have to minimize the chat screen to get to the Clover screen. So if I don't answer right away, that is why I did not see it. I'll check in periodically as well. And just to let you know, I am recording this and I'm going to share it, and just to forewarn you. So let's get started. So to start from the beginning, this is Clover, and the URL is up here, but if you ever need to find the URL, you can go to our website. It's libraries.vermont.gov, and on the left there is Services for Vermont Libraries, and Interlibrary Loan is the second one under that. And right in the middle, you click here to get to Clover. There's also the Clover information page. And so we'll just click on Clover. And that takes you to the beginning. And then in the upper right-hand corner is the login button. So the first step is to choose your library from the drop-down menu. And for this example, I'm actually going to be using our regular account, which is our collections. In case you're wondering, Department of Libraries has 3 accounts on here. We have our Department of Libraries, which has all of our collections, and we have the Mid-State Regional Library, which is now closed, so no requests actually go there. And then we also have the VSS account, which is the default lender, and that is where the out-of-state requests go. So you can start off by typing your name or your code, and then just choose your library from the drop-down menu. And then the default login for all of the accounts is your code plus the word admin. So in this case, this account would be M761C1 admin. And the way the default is set up, your password is the exact same thing. So it would have been M761C1 admin. In this case, I have changed everything. So I'm going to log in using my account. And if you aren't sure about what your code is, or you tried and your login isn't working, just contact me directly and I can reset your password. Then you click submit. And it takes you to the intro screen. And what you're going to want to start with is usually the staff dashboard, which is in the upper left. And that will get you to all of the menus to access all the parts of Clover. And generally, you will be using the ILL admin menu. That's where the request manager is. It's where you can view all of the previous requests you've made. You can look up a specific request by request number. And then you can maintain shipping labels and book straps if you use those. I know a lot of the libraries don't. This is where the statistics menu is, so that you can access all of the statistics for your requests. And there's also the user admin, which is where you would edit user accounts so that you can change your password from the default password, which is highly recommended. All right, let me check in, see if we have any questions. No questions yet. I'll check in every few minutes just to make sure I'm not missing any. So to start off with, I'm going to show you searching for titles and the search limiters on the left and requesting. So let's start with, I had a practice title. We'll just start with an author. Let's start with Patterson. So when you search, you just type, you can hit enter, click search, and you're going to see on the left the search progress. So it's searching 115 resources, which is actually over 200 libraries because there are several shared catalogs. Like Catamount is listed as one resource, Vocal is listed as one resource. So generally I like to let it finish loading, but if the title that you want has already popped up, you can actually click stop and it will stop searching. And what's nice about that is the search and the lender list are built at separate points. So even if you hit stop, if you request that title, it's still going to build a complete lender list of all of the libraries that own that title.
You hear?
Hi, I hear someone.
Oops, sorry. Karen and Jenny down in Townsend. I'll mute us.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the easiest way to request a title is you can just, let me find one. There's going to be a couple options when you hover over a title. Sometimes if there's only one format available, which is not a thing on any of these search results, you're going to see view details, but there's also going to be a request this item button. But since there's all of these different formats available, that button isn't on this screen. So let's say you wanted to request iFunny and you want the book, you don't want the audio book. I'm not sure why it's listed as archival materials. That happens sometimes. So you would just click on book. And what you'll see here is these are all of the different records. There is going to be something slightly different about each one of these, whether it's the title is not exact or the date does not match or the publisher is slightly different. For whatever reason, these records cannot be combined, which is a little frustrating, but the system tries. When you hit the screen, generally what I tell people to do is look for the one that has the most owning libraries with copies available. So in this case, you see this one says owning libraries 23, and there's a bunch of copies available. So there's two options here. You can either click on the book cover to see the full record, which will list every library that owns it, if it's available, and if it's lendable. Or if you just want to create a request for this, you can go over to the right and click the request this item button. And that will open up the request form. And all you have to do is check the need by date. It's default set at 90 days. I've yet to actually see a request take 90 days to be filled. I have, however, run into trouble with people changing the need by date to really soon. There's been a couple instances where they want it as soon as possible, so they set it for the end of the week. And what happens is that it goes to one or two libraries and then it expires and it never goes anywhere else again. So I recommend leaving the need by date, and if you really want it soon, maybe put something in the borrower's notes. You just have to remember to take into account that they need to be able to mark it as shipped, and you would need to be able to mark it as received. So there's the shipping time, and even with the courier, that adds in some time. So the only required fields are the need by date, the patron's last name, which, especially for schools, I have had people just put in the library name or the librarian name. You could put anything in there, and that's fine. And then you need the patron's contact info, which I usually put an email address. Your ship to information should have been automatically populated. There is this any addition is acceptable checkbox, which unfortunately is just there for decoration. It does not actually go to any other additions. That is something that will hopefully be fixed in the future. And then you would just click submit. I'm not actually going to click submit because I don't want to send this request. But what happens is then it just pops up with a little note that says your request, and it gives the number, has been sent. And what's nice about that is once you've sent your request, you can actually go back to the staff dashboard and go to Request Manager, and it will be down in this section. It will be listed as pending. So in your request manager, everything on the left side is borrower requests. So it's requests that you have initiated for your patrons. And everything on the right side is lender requests, which are requests that have been sent to you so that you can lend out a book from your collection. Let me check in. Okay, so no questions in the chat yet. All right. I will go back to my search. We'll wait for that to pop up again. I do want to note you can change the fields that you're searching. If you want to search specifically for a title or an ISBN, you just click the checkbox and change your search to that. So ISBN, we do have academic libraries in the system, so you can do a search for journal title if you're looking for journals. If you want to see if a specific library owns it, there's this little pancake icon, and it lists all of the catalogs that are linked into Clover. I will say that if you search with these, that does not mean that your request will only go to that library. It's still going to build the lender list based on everyone who owns it, but you can search to see if someone specific has it. Okay, and back on the search screen, there is an advanced search, but the problem is that searches the Clover Union catalog. So I recommend doing a general search and then using the limiters on the left side. So you could narrow by author, you could narrow by library there, you can narrow by date, publisher, title, format. There's also subjects that you can use to search for. Okay. All right, we did searching, requesting. So now I'm just going to show you the progress of your requests. So if you are in your request manager, let's say that you requested a book and the lender has received your request, what they're going to do is mark it as shipped. So then it will move to your shipped category. All of these categories will only be linked if there's currently a request in that status. And what's nice is it also splits it into items that are something you have to do something with, and items that you can't do anything about, you're just waiting on the lender to respond. So in this case, we'll say that a title was shipped. So we click on shipped. Let's say we received it. All you would want to do is go into that. You don't have to click into the request itself. You can just change it to received and then click submit. And what that does is move it to received for you and the lender, so they know that the book has arrived at your library, and it moves over to received. When you are done with the book, you go to received and you change it to returned, unless you want a renewal, in which case you can change it to renewal. And then you just hit submit. Let's say you want to send all of these books back, you can change to returned there, and it will automatically update everything in that status. In case you have, I have this set at showing 25 at a time. Let's say you had 50 things in received and you changed this, it is going to update all of the requests with that status, not just the ones on the page. So use that with caution. Alright, and once you mark something as returned, then it bumps to the return status, at which point you no longer have control over that, and all you can do is wait for them to mark it as checked in. So that is on the lender. So you end up with them returned. If you're wondering if it's been like a month and they haven't marked it as checked in, then you may want to email them and just say, did you receive this? It's not checked in Clover. And then once it is checked in, it moves to complete. So you as a borrower are the only person who can delete the completes. And let's say you just wanted to clear out everything that was in there. You would just change it as to delete, and then you hit submit, and they will all clear out overnight. It'll show up with this, in this column, it'll have a lovely little trash can icon, and then at midnight they will all disappear. they will stay in your statistics, but they will no longer be listed in the complete status. So that is borrowing in Clover. The big things to remember are to mark it as received and returned. Otherwise, you may be getting a lot of emails from people saying, did it arrive? Where is it? It's really overdue. And it just helps people track where in the process those books are. So now I'm going to move over to lending, but first I'm going to check in and see, are there any questions about borrowing? I'm going to give it a minute just in case anyone wants to type. Okay. All right, there's going to be more time for questions at the end anyway. So I'm going to move over to lending. So when you receive a request, it's going to show up in pending, and you will only receive requests if your catalog is linked into Clover. If you're not sure if it is, you can check the little pancake icon and see if you are listed. And if you're not, send me an email and I can see what I can do. But again, you could use the request manager to manage everything. If you get a request, it's going to show up in pending. So you click on pending and you'll see the requests. And you can either print them. We usually print each individual request. If there is a little push pin icon, that means there is a note. And you should look at the detail request to check the borrower's notes field. And if there is a little flag, it means that it is about to expire or move on to the next library. And all you need to do is check to see if you have the title in, and if you want to ship it, I'm going to apologize for using actual request and privacy, then you change it to will supply and process. If you're going to check the shelves, we do that now. Or you can just change it straight to shipped. And then if you look down here, you're going to see due date. Please make sure it matches the due date in your system. I run into a lot of libraries where, for whatever reason, it doesn't match up with the due date in their ILS, and then people get overdue notices, and they're confused about why Clover still thinks they have another week, and it's just one of those little details that's really nice to make sure it matches. So you can set the due date for whatever the due date is, mark it as shipped, and hit submit. We have not shipped this, so I'm not going to mark it as submit. And once you've marked it as shipped, again, it bumps over to the borrower's shipped side. And for you, it's as a lender, it's going to be in here. It's going to be in the shipped field. Let's say you accidentally marked something as shipped and you didn't mean to. There is an undo shipped option, which is fantastic. Let's say you marked it as shipped and then you check the shelves and it's not actually there. You can undo shipped, and then it will go back into pending and move on to the next library. And that's fantastic. And what's helpful is if they never marked it as received or returned and it comes back to you, you can still check it in. Alright, so once it's received, it's going to bump into the receive, where again, it's under items waiting for, in this case, trading partner means borrower. And they mark it as received, and then when they mark it as returned, it goes into your returned. And all you have to do is mark it as checked in. And then once it's checked in, it moves to complete. And the big thing to remember is you can't change the number of completes as a lender. You're only in charge of deleting requests that you make as a borrower, because everything below this line is generally something you are waiting for someone else, in this case the borrower, to deal with. One thing to check as a lender is the pending cancel. Sometimes people realize that they have gotten extra copies or they don't need the request anymore. So you just want to check pending cancel in case they've asked for you not to send it. In which case it'll actually, I can't show you because we don't have any pending cancel, but the drop down will just give you the option of choosing approve cancel. I have a question. No, I don't. Oh, good. I am still sharing my screen. It's just reminding me. Renewals are also handled in this field. If you get a renew request, there's actually 2 renewal fields. They don't combine them. There is renew pending, which is where renewal requests that are made before a book is due go to. And then there is renew/overdue, which is where overdue books that have been asked for a renewal go. So you need to check both of those. So I'll show you in here. For renew overdue, you can just accept renewal. It'll automatically generate a due date based on the settings in your Clover system, or you can click on the detail. You can change the due date manually to whatever you want, and then hit accept renewal and hit submit. And those are the basics as a lender. You can mark items as will not supply, and they automatically move on to the next lender. I will say that something to bear in mind as a lender and a borrower, you can see the entire lender list when you create a request. Let me find something like this one. You'll see that it's here, but it's actually not going to show other ones because it's requesting in Braille. But the lender list is right here. And you'll see the only one after us is VSS, which is our out-of-state requesting, which means if we don't send it, it's going to bump to out-of-state automatically. And that is a setting that you could change in your participant record. Specifically for your requests, you don't have to have a default lender, but it is easier if you do want requests from out of state. If you never want your requests to go out of state, you can take that out, and I will show you how. So that is the basics of requesting, of borrowing and lending. I'm going to do a quick intro into your participant record because that is pretty much key to how the whole system works. So again, in ILL admin, you have your participant record, and you just want to click on maintain participant record. And this holds all of the information for your library, and it's all of the information that is available to other libraries to view. It has all of your contact information. It's how you control your checkout periods. So you'll see right at the top, it's got our code, our name. It has the days to respond, which is how long a request to borrow an item from us can stay with us. Since we process, it says right here, days requests are processed, we process Monday through Friday. So we left it at 4 days, which is the default, which means it will never sit with us longer than 1 week, ever. Generally, it does not sit longer than that anyway. What I have been recommending is that libraries who do not process interlibrary loans every day mark off the days that you respond, and then make sure that your days to respond matches that number of days. So if you only process on Monday, change your days to respond to 1 day, because the days to respond is directly linked to the days that you process. It does not mean that it will sit for 4 calendar days. It will sit for 4 processing days. So if you only process on Monday and you for some reason do not check Clover for a few weeks, a request could sit with you for 4 weeks. So that is something I highly recommend. Another important area is the preferred lender list. For us, we're on the courier service, so our requests go to the courier libraries first. If you have libraries that are geographically close to you, you can add them. And all you need to do is click the Add Lender button, and you can actually search by library name or their code, and it's very easy to add libraries. If you are on the courier, you can just copy and paste the list that I send out when we add more libraries. And if you scroll down, that is where the default lender is. The primary default lender for us It's the out-of-state one. So if you don't want requests to go to our out-of-state account automatically, you can actually delete that. The only field that you cannot change is the system-wide lenders, and that's just a list of every library in the system, and everyone's system-wide list is the same. All right. I can show you where you can update your checkout periods as well, because you can change the initial checkout period and you can also update renewals. And you just need to click on this lending policy box. It's actually going to open a separate one, and for various types you can actually change, if you loan them, what your loan period is, if you will renew them, and what your renewal period is. So if you are, for some reason, not getting renewal requests that people insist they have sent you, double check that your renewals are set as yes. All right. And the one other really important part of this is the contact info. If you click contact info, it'll jump down the screen to the contact area where you would list your address and then list an ILL contact. This is the only way that people can find your contact information. For me, we have an ILL email address, and if you put an email address in, then it will show up on the request, and it makes it so much easier to find out the contact information instead of looking up every single person individually, because I will say some websites are hard to navigate. There is also the holiday list. If you are taking a vacation, or if you are closed for construction or snow or summer vacation, this is where you would put those dates in. You could put an entire year's worth of dates in here because you could fit 15 different vacations in there at once. You just put the start date and the end date, and that way Clover knows that you are closed, and during that period you won't get requests. You might get a couple near the end of it because it does look at the days to respond as well, but generally you will not receive requests for those dates. Okay. And that is especially important for school vacations and summer vacations. Otherwise, the requests will still go out and they will still sit there and wait. Okay. I'll just throw this out there. I have steps on how to set up staff notices, so that if you don't want to have to log into Clover every day to see if you have new requests to send out, you can set up staff notices. And there are borrower emails, which are for you as a borrower. And if you scroll down, there are lender emails. You would need to put your email in this field and then check off any email notices that you want to receive. So if you only want Clover to tell you when someone wants to borrow something from you, just put your email address in here, check off new lending request, and hit submit. And then it will start sending them to you. Alright, so there was one more website that I wanted to show you. I do have a Clover support site. You can get to it from our website, but I will give you the direct link. It is vermontclover.wordpress.com, and it has my contact information, which I see now I did not update my phone number here. It has the login link for Clover, updates and reminders that I sent out, explanations of some of the statuses in the borrower menu. These are the ones that I get the most questions about, and I will be expanding this to add all of them. Explanations about some of the statuses in the lender menu. There are some fabulous how-to step-by-step instructions that Wendy Sharkey in Bennington created and shared with me. And then I have FAQ. I get a lot of questions about what are the Clover library codes, and I have a link here that shows all of the codes for every library in the state, and it's split by public, school, academic, and special. A statistics cheat sheet, it's just a brief overview of some of the statistics you can get, and an explanation on bookstraps and the email notifications. And then those request icons, which are the push pin and the little house icons. Steps on how to request multiple copies, and then some video tutorials. So those are the main things that I wanted to show you about Clover, and I'm going to open it up to questions. Does anybody have any questions? You could type them in the chat box. If you can't see the chat box, on the bottom left is a little chat icon. You click on that and it will expand it out. Oh, Fairfax says a library borrowed our book and has marked it lost. Is that unusual for someone else to mark your book lost? If they have actually lost it, no. We have had some people who borrow books from us or from out of state, and if they can't find it, they mark it lost. I usually reach out and ask them if it is actually lost or if the system decided it was so overdue that the system automatically updated it as lost. And if they say, no, I have lost it, then they get sent an invoice. So if something comes up into lost, I would reach out to the library directly and ask them if it is lost or if they just accidentally marked it as lost and they still have it or they're still trying to get a hold of the patron to get it back. Oh, and if they did mark it as lost, but you get it back, you can actually just mark it as checked in, and then it moves it to complete anyway. Any other questions? I'll be running this webinar again on, I believe it's the 29th. I'll be sending out another reminder email. So if you think of questions, you could show up to that one too. It'd be like Clover round 2. Or you can always email me or call me, and I'm more than happy to walk you through any Clover questions. Oh, retry and unfilled. There are slight differences between retry and unfilled, and it depends entirely on the reasons why someone marked it as will not supply. Typically, a request will go to retry if it skipped a lender because they were closed or because the item was currently checked out. And it will go to unfilled if it's been marked as lost by the lender or not on the shelf or will not supply because it's for us, if it goes to unfilled and it went to the out of state, we always leave a lender's note on why we did not fill it. But if you're looking at it at any request as a lender and you go to will not supply, that second box right under it will have all of a long list of reasons why you are not supplying it. And in brackets, you'll see retry and unfilled. And those are what determine which category those go to. So when you have them end up there, it's always good to click on the detail view. So just click on the link for the title of the request. And then if you scroll down, the entire bottom of the request will list the request history, and that will show which libraries it went to and why each of those marked it as will not supply. You're welcome. The timeline for a book to arrive by courier varies, partly because a lot of times most of the libraries have one stop a week, and then it has to sync up with their stop and your stop. But usually I think a week, maybe 2, depending on how often the stops are there. For any tips so the borrowing library doesn't check in the book you lent them before sending it back? They can't actually mark your book as checked in. They can only mark it as returned when they send it back. I'm not sure how a library could. Are you sharing a cat? Is it like a catamount thing where they check it in and then put it in the mail? Koha. Okay, so if that's Vocal or Catamount, that would actually be something you'd have to talk to them about. Because in Clover, they can't actually check it in. You could ask them to not check it in before sending it back. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. If that happens again, let me know, and I can actually log in and check on the specific request. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right. If those are all the questions, I will stop recording. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a nice day.
Thank you, you too.